Hi everyone, it's me, SkyHappy, the creator of OpenClassic, and in this video I'll be explaining or showing you how to make your own mods for CastleMiner Z using the OpenClassic modding framework. If you don't know what OpenClassic is a custom version of the original CastleMiner Z that implements a bunch of improvements to make the game more playable, such as bug fixes, anti-cheat, performance improvements, lots of new quality of life features, all sorts of things to make the game more playable today, especially in multiplayer, and more stable. Most importantly, for this video though, OpenClassic comes with its own modding framework, which means you can make mods using OpenClassic for OpenClassic, and it is extremely simple. If you're in the CastleMiner Z community, you'll know that making your own mods has been an infamously difficult task. In terms of content mods, there's a reason why in the past 5 years of the modding community existing, a total of, 5 content mods have been released. The process of making new guns, new items, blocks, enemies with custom assets and models is extremely time consuming. And then there's a lot of security concerns with releasing mods the current way before OpenClassic because it involves releasing a modified exe file, which is a massive security concern because that's dangerous. And if you don't get that from a trusted source, it could not be very good. OpenClassic fixes all of these issues. It makes modding extremely fast, while making a custom gun with a custom model would very well take you an entire day using the old system. OpenClassic can let you do it in 10 minutes. Best of all, OpenClassic modding requires zero programming experience. You can make custom guns, items, tools, blocks, and more without needing any programming knowledge at all. It is extremely simple. Installing an OpenClassic mod is as simple as downloading it and then placing it into your OpenClassic addons folder. Then you can just launch the game, and the add-ons will be loaded. Here I downloaded a weapon pack, and as you can see, it works. OpenClassic mods are pretty powerful, and there are all sorts of things you can do. The mods themselves use a format called tags. As you can see, these are the files for this add-on, and here this is the tag for the assault rifle weapon, and this is what it looks like. In this video, I'll be explaining the tag format and how to make your own. So, how do we make mods? If you don't already know, there is a written guide available. You can find this on the OpenClassic website that goes into detail on everything you need to know to make your own add-ons, just like this video is about to do. The guide should help you and answer all of your questions, but if you had any confusion or any trouble with it, or you just prefer to listen or prefer visuals, this video is for you. I'll be trying to go into more detail and simplifying things even more. So rest assured, if you are confused at all with the guide, hopefully this tutorial, hopefully you find it more helpful. So let's start. First of all, what are tags? OpenClassic uses a system called tags for add-ons. A tag is a file for a game object. Anything that exists in the game exists as a file on your computer called a tag. Guns, blocks, items, those are different types of tags. I'm going to read this. Think of a tag like an editable template. A tag is basically a file for a specific game object that contains several easily editable values for all of that object's traits. For example, let's say we have a gun tag. Editing the tag will show you a simple list of all of the gun's traits, such as fire rate, accuracy, reload time, mag size, etc. So a tag is a file for a game object that shows you all of the object's properties in a clear list that you can just edit the values of, just like this. OpenClassic tags are text-based, which means you can edit them with any text editor. It's extremely simple. You don't need to download any programs to do it. You can use Notepad. Very readable, very simple. So let me reiterate that. A tag is a game object or a file for a game object that is editable as a text document, and in that text document shows you a clear list of all of that item's traits, and you can just edit them and they'll update in game. This visual was simplified for your understanding, or exaggerated. Let's look at an actual OpenClassic tag. Above is an actual OpenClassic tag for a custom pickaxe. As you can see, it's pretty similar, still text-based, but there are a few differences. I think the first thing you'll notice is these strange symbols at the start of each line. Pretend those don't exist for now, okay? Let me explain, or let me just label let me go into more detail on how tags work. So these words in all caps are called keywords. Everything that follows the colon is the keyword's value. For each type of tag, on the written guide, you will find a list of all the keywords you can use to change that tag's properties. You don't have to write anything. If you exclude a keyword, the game will use a default value. I hope this makes sense. So let's say you're making a tag. The first thing you would do is write what kind of tag you're making, because the first line defines the type of tag. So let's say we want to make, so here is a tool. Let's make a firearm. This is all listed on the written guide. You don't need to memorize anything. So the first line decides what type of tag we're making. And then once that is defined, there's a specific list of keywords you're allowed to use for each tag type. So firearm can use values such as accuracy. Again, you can find this listed on the document, and I'll show you that, but I'm trying to explain this first. Accuracy is a keyword you can use for firearms. That makes sense, right? It's the accuracy of the gun. Accuracy cannot be used for tools, only firearms. Accuracy is called an exclusive keyword. On the written guide, there are several pages with lists of exclusive keywords per tag. type. So accuracy is one of them. Keywords can be listed in any value, any order. So here, tool, it's author, name, ID. This could be name, author, ID. It can be in any order. And you can just exclude a keyword if you don't want to use it, and it doesn't matter. And you just won't set that value. Either the game will just use a default. So I hope this makes sense. We just said that there are exclusive keywords for each tag. Why the specification? Because not every keyword is exclusive. There are shared keywords. Not many, but there are a few. Name and author are two of them. Name and author can be set for any tag. Author sets the. So in OpenClassic, in-game, you can view a list of all of your add-ons, and under each one it says who made them. That's what author sets. So there's no reason why that would be exclusive to different types of tags, right? Every add-on can have that. Name is the same. It sets the name of the add-on. And if it's an item, it sets the name of the item in-game. So here, this example is called Space Rock Pickaxe. So, I keep saying you can find lists of all this stuff on the written guide. Let me just show you. For shared keywords, like name and author, you can find them right here on page 7. As you can see, it says most keywords are unique to their tag, but there are a few that are shared and can be used the same on different tag types. So here's a list of all of the shared keywords. Universal keywords, these are keywords that can be used by any tag, name, author. Shared between types, tool, item, firearm, and block. You can set the ID, the description that shows up in the crafting menu. Shared between only tools, items, and firearms, whatever. Okay, so these are shared keywords. They can be set for any tag. And if you keep scrolling, you'll find these exclusive keywords to firearm, item, tool, block, structure. These are all the lists of exclusive keywords. So, exclusive keywords to firearm. This is just a list and a description for each one. Automatic is an exclusive keyword to firearm. That means it's a keyword that you can only set if the first line says firearm. It won't do anything on other tags. I hope this makes sense. So, let's say that we're making a tag. We want to make a tool. So the first thing we're going to do is we want to set the name of the tool. So we're going to find the page for shared keywords. Name. Again, ignore the symbols at the start. And we're going to name this Awesome Pickaxe. We can set the author. Me. Doesn't matter. We can set. Now let's go to the tool page, and let's say what do I want to do? I want to say what type of tool this is. I want to make a pickaxe, right? I just wrote in the name pickaxe, so we should say what type of tool this is. So let's look in this list. Anything that can do that. Oh, right here it says style. This will set what type of tool this is. Okay, we can use this. And you get the idea. Okay? Keyword is what type of value we're setting, and then we can just set it. Alright, it's about time I explain what these are, these symbols at the start. It's very simple. Every keyword has its own symbol that tells the user what type of values you're allowed to write as its value. What does that mean? So let's say for a gun, there could be a keyword called magazine size, which would be how many bullets how many bullets can be loaded into the gun. If you set this keyword to yellow, if you wrote yellow, so let's imagine this. Okay, this is an imaginary keyword. This doesn't make any sense. The game's not going to know what to do with this. So, the symbol tells you what you're allowed to do. It's just for readability. It's just so that you can look at the keyword and know what you're allowed to do. Because this won't work, and I don't want you guessing what will work. So the keyword tells you what will work. Hashtag means only numbers are allowed. So you can look at this keyword, have no confusion. You don't have to guess what you're allowed to write. You're like, oh, okay, so it's called mag size, and it has a hashtag, which means it can only take numbers. Okay, I can only write a number. This is the magazine size. I can guess, okay, I don't need a description for this. If it's a firearm keyword called magazine size, and it only takes numbers, I can write 30. The symbol tells you what you're allowed to do. It's just for the reader's sake to make things easier to understand and easier to read. Let's go over what symbols we're allowed to write. This is page 4. There are a couple different symbols. They're the only thing you'll have to memorize to make add-ons. Every keyword has a specific symbol attached to it that tells you what kind of value it expects, and some keywords can use multiple symbols. Okay, makes sense. We just went over that. The $sign means a text value, such as hello. So this means you can write anything you want, and it'll show up in-game as text. So, as we can see, we've already seen this symbol on name. Awesome pickaxe. We could write anything. We could write the 50th pickaxe. We could just write 20. These are numbers, right? But since it's text, it doesn't matter. It can be anything. This will show up in-game as text. That's what the $sign means. Well, it doesn't always mean it'll show up as text, but it means you can write text. I don't want to be vague, so let me just explain what I mean by that. There are some keywords that want you to write the name of an existing item. For example, for firearm tags, there's a keyword called, I think it is ammo. Let's see. Let's use our list here. Ammo name. That's what it's called. Ammo name. And this has a $sign at the start, but this isn't for something that'll show up in game as text. But it does want us to write text, because what this keyword wants us to do is write the name of the in-game item that the gun will use as ammo, such as bloodstone bullets. Make sense? Okay, so that's what the $sign symbol means. The hashtag symbol, we already explained this, means a number value. Okay, but there's another one, the percentage symbol, which means a decimal value or a number value. Not everything that uses numbers is allowed to take decimals. For example, magazine size again. It wouldn't make any sense if you set the magazine size to 5.3. Like, what is that? Like half a bullet? Doesn't make any sense. So the game only lets you write whole numbers if it uses a hashtag. A percentage means you're allowed to write whole numbers, or you're allowed to write decimals. Something that uses percentage could be damage. When you set how much damage an item does, that's a percentage value. That keyword uses a percentage, because you're allowed to do that. That's like, it could be like 1 heart and a half. You know, like you can do decimals for damages, but a decimal keyword doesn't always mean you have to write a decimal. You could just write 5 damage and it'll work. But yeah, so hopefully that makes sense. Hashtag means the keyword only takes whole numbers. Percentage means the keyword takes decimals or whole numbers. Okay. Equals, we briefly saw this when I used the automatic keyword as an example. Equals means it only takes true or false, which means I have to either write true or false. This is used by stuff like automatic. All this keyword does is set whether the gun fires automatically or not. There's only 2 answers, yes or no, so it uses the equals keyword. The star. This is a color value. This can take either RGB values or in-game color names. If you don't know what RGB is, this is used in coloring programs, all sorts of things. These are basically codes for colors. And then there's a page down here, page 23. This is all the supported game colors. So coal, wood, copper, stone, these are colors, CastleMiner Z colors. You don't always have to write a RGB value. You can write an existing color and it'll work. Which makes your life easier if you want to make like a custom gun and then make a bloodstone version. You don't have to guess the RGB value for bloodstone. Just write bloodstone and it'll work. And then lastly, the quote symbol. This one is the most complicated, but I'm sure you'll get the hang of it. A quote value, a quote keyword only takes specific set values. Let me give you an example. So all of these, let me give you an example. So all of these keywords here, these all let you write whatever you want, right? Bullets per second, I could write 30, I could write 10, I could write 5. Clip size, I could write 30, I could write 10, I could write 5, anything, you know. For the name, I could write awesome gun, I could write funny pistol, I could write rocket launcher. You know, all of these keywords, you can set the values following the symbol's rules to whatever you want, except for the quote symbol. The quote symbol only takes specific values and nothing else. Projectile type. This is a keyword used by guns that is a quote keyword. It only takes values such as normal, shotgun, laser, laser shotgun, or rocket, because this keyword sets what type of projectile the gun shoots, and these are the only projectiles in the game. You can't write candy and the game's gonna know to make the gun shoot candy. You have to write something that the game is expecting. So if you want bullets, you'd write normal for normal projectiles. Shotgun bullets that spread everywhere are shotgun projectiles, and etc. Hope this makes sense. Basically, the quote keyword means that you can't come up with your own answer. If you see a quote on a keyword, that means you need to check the written documentation, the written guide, for what this keyword allows. Another keyword that uses quotes is the animation. This uses these values because OpenClassic does not support custom animations. So you have to set the animation of the gun to one of the existing ones. So these are the existing animations you're allowed to input. This should make more sense once you start trying it and messing around. Let's revise. A tag is a file on your computer for an existing game object or something that exists in the game. and tags can be edited with text editors. Tags are the type of the tag is defined by the first line of the document. So you could write firearm, and then following the first line, you put in keywords that either are exclusive to that type or shared between types. The symbol before a keyword tells you what type of value you're allowed to put in as the keyword's value. And keywords can be written in any order you choose, or not included at all if you want the game to set a default value instead. That is everything you need to know to make your own tags. Now, how about I walk you through actually creating one? I suggest you follow along. We're going to create some kind of item, and we're going to put it into the game and see how it looks in game. Okay? So, what kind of add-on do we want to create? Let's make a shovel that can mine extremely fast. Just a simple, very easy add-on, and I want you to follow along so we can get used to the workflow of creating your own add-ons. So, the first thing you want to do is you want to find your OpenClassic add-ons folder. If you've installed add-ons before, you should know how to do this, but if you haven't, go to Steam. My Steam's going to look different than yours, but find CastleMiner Z on the left-hand side, right-click it, hover over Manage, and click on Browse Local Files. Once you do that, your CastleMiner Z game directory will open, and you should see a folder called OpenClassic Add-ons. If you don't see it, just create it. It should look exactly like this with this name. Okay? Open it. And then in here, we're going to create our tag. So the easiest way to create a brand new tag is to create a text document and then rename the file format to be a tag document. So how do we do that? I'm going to right click. I'm going to click new text document. And as you can see, it says .txt. We're going to rename it to .clag and hit yes. If you don't see .txt, there's a Windows setting you need to change. I think it's called Show Hidden File Formats. You need to change that. The way to do it depends on your Windows version, so I can't help you. You have to look that up. But once you do that, once you can see the .txt, rename the file and change it from .txt to .clag. Okay, now we've created a tag. CLAG, by the way, stands for Classic Tag. Let's actually name it something. Let's call it Funny Spade. And to open it and edit it, you won't be able to do it at first. You want to right-click it, press Open With, and find any text editor you want to use. You should have Notepad by default if you don't have any other programs. Click it, press Always Use This App, and then press OK. We are now editing an empty tag. First thing we want to do is say what kind of tag this is. So according to the written documentation, tools are called tools. So let's write tool. And you know what? Let's just save it, not set any keywords. So it's just going to be using completely default values and see how this looks in game. Look, since we created this in our add-ons folder, that means the game is already gonna find it and load it when we launch the game. So let's launch the game. When you launch the game, in the top left, it should say one add-on loaded. There we go. We check our add-ons list. We see that it loaded a tool, untitled because we didn't set a name. This is the path to our tool. Great. This means it loaded in. Let's just go into Creative. We'll set the crafting menu to Tools, and we should... Oh! Custom Tool. Looks like a pink pickaxe. That's because the default style for the tool is pickaxe. Default material color is pink. And it's trash. But hey, we just put an item into the game. So let's customize it. Let's go back to our tool here. And first thing we want to do is say the name. So let's check the written guide. Name was a shared keyword. So let's go to page 7. There it is. $name. Okay. Let's call it Funny Spade! Exclamation point. Let's set the author. I am Sky Happy. And let's also set it to be an actual spade because it's a pickaxe right now. So let's go to the page for tool. Let's check this list. Here we have style. This will set what type of tool this is. Okay. So let's set the style to spade. So there's a tool with the style for spade. Let's load the game again. Now if we check add-ons, it's called Funny Spade by Sky Happy. We go back into that same world. It's a spade. And as you can see, it also has the name. And there we go. Let's edit it some more. By the way, if you don't want to keep repeatedly loading a world, you can speed the process up for testing your add-ons by right-clicking the game, clicking Properties, and then in Launch Options, type in plus Quick Load. This will make it so that the moment you launch the game, it'll immediately take you into a testing creative world and it won't save any progress. Very useful if you're repeatedly testing changes. Okay. I don't like that the spade is pink. So, let's check this. I want to change the material color. Is there any keyword here for material color? There is. So it's star material underscore color. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to type that. Material color. You know when you're like talking while typing, you type what you're saying? Alright, so this can be an RGB value or the material value, the material name of an existing color in game. So we could write bloodstone, or we could come up with our own color. Let's go into paint.net, or doesn't matter what you want to do. Let's make a color. Let's say we want it to be bright green. Does this look nice? Sure. That's funny. Hey, it's called Funny Spade. So this value is 0.25529. Okay. 0.25529. That's an RGB value. What else can we do? Oh, we can set the tier. So, tier is the mining speed of the tool. These are the numbers that represent the vanilla materials. Stone tools have a tier of 1. Copper tools are tier 2. iron tools are tier 3, etc. So if we set tier to 6, or if we set tier to 3, it'll mine at the exact same speed as an iron spade. But we can actually go higher than this. As you can see, values higher are not vanilla, but will continue to get faster and stronger. So if we want something better than bloodstone, let's set tier to 10. So now this is going to mine blocks extremely fast. If we want to set the durability, that is actually a shared keyword. So let's go back to page 7. And down here, shared between tools and firearms. These both allow you to set the durability. Self-damage. This is the damage the item takes each use. Durability. So, you know it'd be fun? It'd be funny? If we set this spade to mine things extremely fast, but break extremely fast as well. So, an item's health is 100 normally. So how much damage should it take each swing? Let's say 10. That means you can swing it 10 times before it breaks. And let's test it. I'm going to press F on my keyboard to take me to the first item that starts with F. There it is. It's bright green, and it mines blocks instantly, and it's broken. We just created our first item. Give yourself a pat on the back. You'll notice something though. We're in creative, right? There's no recipe for this item. That means that it cannot be crafted in survival. So what do we have to do? We have to give it a recipe. Recipes are a different tag type. So, to create them, we need to create a new tag. We're going to call this funny spade recipe.clag. We're going to open it, and we're going to set the tag type to recipe. If you don't know the type names, you can find them by looking through the written guide. And let's go to the page for recipe. Let's see, here it is. Now recipe is a special case. As you can see, it only uses 2 keywords, and these keywords don't have a symbol. So, if you remember, the symbol basically gives you rules for what type of value you're allowed to put in. If a keyword does not have a symbol, that means that it expects values that were not clearly described by the available symbols. So, that means that if a keyword doesn't have a symbol, that means it's special. You need to check the guide to know what it does. There are not many keywords like this, but these two, output and input, are. The reason they don't have symbols is because this is what they look like. Input and output are exclusive to recipe tags. Output is the item that is crafted, and input is the ingredients you need to craft it. So as you can see, this is a special case because it is both a text value and a number. What this is it sets the item and how much of it. And there are commas, which aren't included by any of the available symbols, that separate how many items there are. So input is set to diamonds equals 5, that means 5 diamonds, comma, space. Bloodstone equals 10, that means 10 bloodstone, comma, space rock, 10. Stick 2. These formats are exclusive to these keywords. I'm not saying that every keyword that doesn't have a symbol looks like this. I'm saying that keywords that don't have a symbol look unique, and this is one of them. These are both unique. Even these two on screen are different from each other. Output is not allowed to have any commas because it can only be one item. Input can have multiple items. I hope that makes sense. So without further ado, let's create our recipe. Output is the item the recipe is for and how much of it is crafted. So let's set this. Okay, so let's say output. And we want to put in the name of our item. And then input, what do we need to craft the funny spade? Let's say 2 sticks and it'd be funny. 64, hold on, copper bars. Sure. Okay. Let's try it. So let's check our add-on list. Okay, that's not what we set. Oh. Looks like we forgot to follow the format. We have to say how many funny spades we want. 1. Yep. We check. Yep, see? So what just happened is the game used its default value because we didn't follow the format. So basically, if a keyword doesn't get set, or if it's set incorrectly, the game uses the default value. The default value for most item keywords that want an item is bloodstone bullets. It's okay. Easy fix. Let's try again. There we go. Recipe for funny spade. Okay. We check tools. And there we go. Funny spade now has a recipe. 2 sticks and 64 copper bars. There we go. Let's also set an author for our recipe. And recipe tags don't need you to set a name because the default value is the same as the output. We can set a name though if we want to. Let's say the recipe, this is very unnecessary, for funny spade. But just so you can see. And there we go. Okay. Hopefully that helped you, walking you through the process. And I want to remind you that this is not all you can do with OpenClassic. As you can see, scrolling through here, you can make enemy loot, you can replace biomes, replace existing items, custom music. There's all sorts of stuff you can do. But the easiest stuff is items, and that is what this tutorial is explaining. That's also what I'm walking you through because I think that it's the easiest to understand, and once you understand how to make items, you can make any other tag. And there you go. Now you know how tags work and how to make your own OpenClassic add-ons. There are many different types of tags you can make. They all have different keywords available. I suggest, if you still want to learn, you can download other people's add-ons from the Game Banana and look at their tags and see how they did it. With that, that will be the end of this video. I hope you learned something. If you have any questions, you can put them in the comment section and I will respond. Or you can join the CastleMiner Z Discord server and ask me there. Good luck to making your own mods. Post them on the Game Banana page when you finish them. That's where everyone's going to see them. And yeah, thank you. And I hope you learned something. Bye-bye.